It's good to see all of you this morning, especially Mary Catherine. My goodness, I said, well, how do you? I said it's not hot enough in Bolivia for you, and she said, oh, it's winter in Bolivia. I came here to warm up, and warm up she will. Yes, and we have, ta-da! We have Catherine back with us this morning. Now she's still on jet lag, so she said she doesn't know if her sermon's going to make any sense or not. So we may have to put in words in between the lines. You know how you can do that. We can make this work for her. But it's good to have you back this morning. And an almost happy birthday for Melanie. On July the 1st, she'll have an anniversary of her 29th birthday.
An almost happy birthday for you.
Yes, and I will have it'll be my 50th anniversary of my 29th birthday. It's okay. But it's good to see all of you this morning. And in our bulletin, we have our ongoing and immediate prayer concerns. Does anyone have any prayer concerns or any concerns of any kind you'd like to bring before the meeting this morning?
She sounds like you.
Julia does sound like me, and I hope that's not what's wrong with her, but take care, my dear. Okay, let's keep these people on our prayer list in your prayers and with your concerns throughout the coming week. We still are taking donations for the Noblesville trustees whenever you can think to bring something. This week we're praying for New Salem Friends, Denmark yearly meeting, our country, our world, and peace in Ukraine and Gaza. Is there anything else to come before the meeting at this time? If not, we'll center down and listen to Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. Well, hello and good morning, friends. It's good to see you all today. I do ask your grace because my brain is just kind of off still. We got in about 4 a.m. on Friday morning and my sleep is still messed up, and so I'm kind of working in the gaps today. So I hope that God will bring forward ideas that bless you and you get a sense of the deep meaning that my travels have brought for me the last couple weeks. One of the things I brought back is fashion in Europe for women is, I'm happy to say, quite feminine. There were a lot of women in dresses just walking everywhere. This is true every country we went to. And not only did they have like pretty simple flowery dresses, but they wore tennis shoes. Which I feel silly doing. So my tennis shoes aren't quite right. They were kind of the big clunky white tennis shoes, but I was really glad to see that. There's femininity and there's practicality and there's just a sense of live and let live for whatever fashion happens to inspire you and work for your lifestyle. So I really enjoyed that. And welcome to you both. Good morning. Good morning. So our call to worship today is actually an excerpt from an article in Friends Journal that was called 10 Miles Around, written by Andy Stanton Henry, and this was published in the April 1st, 2023 issue. I'm just quoting a little part of it. Thomas Kelly believed that if our meetings were to shed our secularism and take on this life of vitality and wholehearted obedience, we could transform our world. He concludes, quote, such bands of humble prophets can recreate the Society of Friends and the Christian church and shake the countryside for 10 miles around. That idea of 10 miles around actually comes from a quote of George Fox talking about the influence of Friends and their immediate sphere of influence. He continues, maybe we do well to start close in, to borrow from the poet David White. He invites us to start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. In other words, start with 10 miles around. Assume the Spirit is up to good things within your place and among your people. Assume that you can walk cheerfully about your neighborhood, answering that of God in every person. Assume that you've been centered or planted in your place for a reason.
Would you please get a hymnal and turn to page 410? The title of our song in the bulletin is What a Fellowship, What a Joy Divine. But I think we all know it as Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Would you please stand and join me in singing our opening hymn? The reading on the back of our bulletin is from George Fox. If but one man or woman were raised by his power to stand and live in the same spirit that the prophets and apostles were in, who gave forth the scriptures, that man or woman should shake all the country in their profession for 10 miles round.
Let's pray together, friends. Precious God, how good it is to be with you and with all your children gathered here in this beautiful space, Lord. We thank you that we can be together, that you are in our midst, that you continue to guide and lead us wherever you would have us go, God. There you are in the midst of our living and hoping and dreaming and planning. There you are bringing love and light, opening the way, God, for whatever you have for us next. We thank you so much that you are a God of new things, that as we open our hearts, Lord, to hear you in new places and new ways, you are so faithful to arise in those moments and to teach us things and to open our hearts and hear us, to help us hear your truths in new ways, new languages, new landscapes, new opportunities. Lord, I just thank you that you give us the courage and the openness to be led, to find you at work in the circumstances of our days, no matter how small and humble or how big and seemingly insurmountable, Lord, there you are in the midst of it all. And we are a grateful people. God, we lift up New Salem friends to you today. We just pray that your presence would be with them in a living and vital way. And God, we ask your blessing on Denmark yearly meeting as they gather today. I think of our Danish tour guides, Becca and Marianne, who went home to their families after 2 weeks abroad, traveling through Europe. Just such sweet and beautiful souls. We ask your blessing on all those who gather and worship today, Lord, and are open to your goodness and your peace and your leading. Please center us down, dear Father, and just help us to open our hearts and minds to you, that whatever you might have for us in this hour, Lord, that it refreshes us and uplifts us and helps us to know what you have for each one of us personally here today as we gather. In your name, amen.
came back last night, I was very scared about trying to set up the internet on my own. And but it reminded, I did get it set up, and I was very pleased with myself for figuring out how to do that without Google or YouTube. And, but what it reminded me of is trying new things, not being afraid to try a new situation, anything that we encounter that takes us out of our comfort zone, that we realize that we can do that. We have the courage to do that. And with each new encounter, each courageous opportunity to try something new that takes us out of our comfort zone only builds us to become more familiar with situations that we're not familiar with. And that expands our, what I think God's message for us is to love and spread that love to more and more people and situations, and to not be scared to do that.
Our first scripture this morning is from the first chapter of Joshua, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And from the 8th chapter of Romans, verse 31. What then shall we say in response to this? If God is for us, who can be against us?
Well, just in case my thoughts get a little muddled and the whole message in its entirety doesn't make sense, here's the gist of it. God is present everywhere we go. Maybe you've heard the phrase, wherever you go, there you are. Like we always take ourselves with us wherever we go. But the idea that we meet God all along the way and that God in fact is the journey and is opening the path and is in the faces of the people we meet and the TSA workers who wave at us when we run for our flight, that God is present in every kindness and every hope and every system and every culture. God is present in the crazy, chaotic traffic around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. God is present in the walls of Dachau, which you might not anticipate. God is present at the top of the Eiffel Tower and underneath the Eiffel Tower and through all the train system tunnels. And God is present, working good and loving us every single place we go. So that's the message in its entirety. And those of you who don't know the story, my son is a band director in Zionsville, and he's part of a group called Indiana Musicians Abroad, and they work with a larger travel company. And every 2 years, they take honors, band, choir, and orchestra students to Europe for a multi-city performance tour. So this year, there were so many kids and families signing up in Zionsville that he had actually 2 free trips. The whole trip was paid for, airfare and everything. He asked me if I wanted to go, and I knew this was a great honor, and I am not a traveler and like to stay home in my garden and bake cookies, and my initial instinct was like, oh, okay, but I'm like, oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you. That's a wonderful thing. And I thought, well, God's going to have to get me ready because I just cannot see myself traveling around the world. So what in the span of time, also, I should say, my son has a relatively newborn baby. She'll be 11 months old next month. But I thought through this whole period of time, he was going to back out at some point. He was not going to really want to leave the baby. I just couldn't see that happening. So, but lo and behold, things continued. He was one of the organizers that he felt like he couldn't change plans once he got them in motion. I, applied to update my passport and did all the things I needed to do along the way. And, things just worked out. All the way through. I'm like, I mentioned this several weeks ago before I left, that I felt God's hand on it all. Like God means for me to go on this trip. I really can't imagine why when I'm happy at home in my garden baking cookies, but there's a purpose to it. And I began to trust that more and more. So when I was with you 3 weeks ago, I said, I'm kind of amazed at myself that I'm not feeling a lot of anxiety with this big thing right around the corner. But everything was met with the right answer all along the way. Even the right person to come stay with my dogs, the right schedule at work that just kind of opened up so that I could take this time away. Rick coming here to be with you all while I was gone. Things just fell into place, and it all felt like God. So I trusted it, and I was ready to go. So from the moment I got to the bus, and we all met at Pendleton Heights, and then took a bus up to Chicago O'Hare to catch our flight, everything just worked so well. The people there with the answers we need, the timing, sometimes just to the moment to get us where we needed to go. I mentioned to Barb and Julia that at O'Hare, this crazy bustling airport getting ready for international flights, bags. They were all telling us what to do, what to have ready, go through security, checking the bags, everything. And I was apparently the only one that had metal in my shoulder and my wrist. And so as I put all my things on the conveyor belt, I motioned and I told them. And so they called for female assist so that somebody can come pat you down and do the wand thing. But no female came. And so we're standing there, and here goes my group, one by one. I'm watching them. They're headed for the gate. We don't have a whole lot of time. And these 3 young TSA workers who are not known for their friendly demeanor and jovial attitude, they were helping me. And finally, one of them, this young man, told me to, stand in the machine, hold my arms up, and do all these things. And his face was red, God love him. He's like, he wanted the female to be there to assist me, but, here's what we had. So as I was joking with him and another of the guys, they're laughing at my silly jokes. And then as I got cleared and headed to catch up with my group, I turned around and looked, and these 3 TSA workers are waving at me as I'm eating my flight. And I'm like, this just has to be God. Are people really this nice? Or are the stereotypes we have about people in security and people moving people through and kind of this professional demeanor that keeps this distance? I did not experience that. And that was one of our first moments on this trip, and it was met in love and good humor. And that would only continue. The flights were good. They were on time. Nothing was late. We didn't wait anywhere in any of the airports. We had the really wonderful bus drivers to move us from place to place. And we got very close to them and heard about their families. And this was all international. Like I mentioned in my prayer that Becca and Marianne, where they were both from Denmark, and some of the countries that we all traveled to together, they had never been to either. And so they were kind of astounded at what they were seeing. And we were able to share so many stories and experiences. So one of the rules, I guess, of adjusting to jet lag, which I had never experienced before, was when you get into the new country, you stay awake as long as their day is. So the first day in London, we flew into Heathrow, and then they got us, right off the plane, through customs, onto buses, and took us to Windsor Castle. And I don't remember a whole lot of that. Who knows how long it had been since we'd slept, but we're walking all around and saw the gardens and experienced the castle and had a little meal there, and then had some free time. And then they got us out, and we all, from our hotel, and we all walked to Kensington Gardens in the evening. They were really just trying to keep us awake, all the staff. They were, they say that first day is really survival. So, but it was beautiful, the gardens and the peace and the people enjoying their lives. I mean, everywhere you went in these beautiful gardens throughout Europe, you see people with picnics and with dogs and with kids and just enjoying their time and sitting in big groups or playing music. Sometimes people just completely sacked out on the lawn, just taking a nap. I got such a sense of appreciation for the way they appreciate and enjoy their time. It just seemed to be everywhere we went. So for this message today, there is still so much resonant in me, and it was such a big experience. I tried to begin writing it, and I found I couldn't really leave out any little details, so my message would have been about 10 hours long. And I didn't think Phyllis would like that. So I thought what I would just do for today is touch on some of the big things. I'm sure this will continue to show up in messages throughout. Anthony Bourdain, the chef that had the shows, said that the point of travel is to let it change you, that's what it's supposed to do. And I found that very true. Like, I really do feel changed. I feel like the expectations that I had, both about travel and about the world, have been altered in a good way. I found that things like Julie spoke out of the silence, the things that frighten me or made me feel like, oh, that's not me. I'm not a traveler. I don't do. Those things have just kind of been washed away because I found that I met God in all these places, and that yes, I can do that. And yes, I can feel at home in dramatically different cultures. And I can find connections with hearts that resonate and, beat in the same way my heart beats. And they love their families and they care about their lives and they have things they want to share with us if we're open to it. And I found the world to be a much, much more friendly place than I had anticipated. And I also, with the current state of things in the United States and how we're viewed across the world, I really wasn't sure what the reaction would be from people in different countries. But there was never a feeling of judgment or exclusion or, oh, Americans or anything like that. People were so wonderful and welcoming everywhere we went. It was a person-to-person connection. Folks came to the concerts for the kids. I don't know if I mentioned that there were 330 of us that were traveling together, and two full bands, an orchestra and a choir, and lots of concerts going on in all these different venues all the time. And I was so touched. Like in Paris, we had a concert at the beautiful Luxembourg Gardens in Paris. So many people came to hear that concert. We were in this great big amphitheater band, I don't forget what you call it, great big setting. And people were filling this park. I mean, sitting and they eating their lunches, and they brought their own chairs and, spread out blankets, and they just listened and applauded and loved the music. And the kids just got so much from that. And so many people, and this was true in every country they performed in, they would video their concerts. And I assume they're putting those on social media or sharing them with family. But I thought, what a gift to the kids to go to a completely different country. And people like what you're doing so much that they're capturing it to remember it. That's not your mom filming your concert. It's not people that you know and that care about you. These are people who are receiving your gifts. And I feel like the kids were so affirmed. And when they got together to play this music, not only did it bless their audience, but it really blessed them. You could see how much they took from all those experiences. So quickly, I thought I'd give you an overview about the countries that we visited and what, in a very surface way, as I can say, what I felt I was given there. So we went to London, Paris, Andermatt, Switzerland. I won't say this right. Oberammergau. Oberammergau. I think that's right. Germany. Salzburg, Austria, and Prague. So those were the main cities. Prague, we didn't have a performance. That was just a little extension onto the trip. But every place else, the bands, the orchestra, and the choir all performed in these amazing venues. Everywhere we went was beautiful. And every place, I felt, had its own unique gift to give. And this could just be the way I'm wired, but it felt to me that in a very real way, like London has such an amazing live and let live vibe. Like I didn't really anticipate liking London a whole lot. I thought it was going to be super busy. I had, in my head, horns honking, people, get out of the way. Wasn't like that at all. Like people were just at ease with each other. I mean, there were people everywhere. And when you walk on the sidewalks, you're kind of like a fish swimming upstream. You just find your path and you go. But you've been there, this is like but everyone was really at ease with each other, and nobody's like jostling or trying to cut people off. It's just like everybody flows together and folks get where they're going. Riding the tube in London, we took students on the tube 4 different times at rush hour. These cars are packed and you're counting the heads of your students and keeping everybody together. The first day it was a little overwhelming just because so many people and we didn't really know where we were going. And apparently one group came out, they went to see Broadway shows. They came out of The Lion King and went the totally wrong way. It took them a while to get back to the hotel. Another group, this was a group of students, and they did have chaperones with them. But I guess all the seats weren't right together in this one place. The kids thought the show was over at intermission. And they went out, and then the people wouldn't let them back in. So they only saw, that group only saw half of a Broadway show. So there were some wrinkles. But that feeling of, being on the tube, so many people, trying to get off at their stops, my very first experience, and I'm standing there holding on, and, things like this. And this woman steps off in front of me, and she's getting ready to exit the train, and she just turned to me real quietly. She said, "Bless." She'd said, "Bless." And I'm like, it so touched my heart. And I realized what she'd said. And as she stepped off, I said, "Thank you. God bless you too." And I'm like, that was my first engagement with somebody in London. And I felt like it set the tone of the whole thing, that people weren't jockeying to get off and get in a good position to get off the train. They weren't pushing people. They were just like, let's all do what we do. Let's get where we're going, and let's do it. I feel like they have a wonderful collective society. It's live and let live. The one stop, a young woman, maybe in her 20s, got on the tube with big pink fuzzy wings. And nobody did a double take at all. It's like, oh, here she is, live and let live. It's like I love that people dress how they want, they do what they want, they, go where they want, and there's this sense of communal respect, to just help each other, let each other get where we're going, and bless one another along the way. So that finding God and that collective spirit and that respect for one another was really powerful for me. Paris, I was unprepared for the deliciousness of the food. It was amazing. I've heard people talk about French cooking all my life. I don't really get it. And I'm a vegetarian. That's something I have to say. Throughout Europe, very supported. I found everything I had was delicious. And even the tiny little towns in Germany, they always had vegetarian and vegan options. But in Paris, you taste God in the food, the excellence, the richness, the idea that you're meant to savor your time. The French really want you to savor your time. In fact, I would even go so far as to say the French have a different concept of time altogether. I studied French in school for many years, was always fascinated by the culture, but they have their big meal in the middle of the day, and the kids will come home from school, and the parents will come home from work, and they'll have their big dinner, with a multi-course and wine, and they'll take 2-3 hours in the middle of the day, and then they'll just have something light in the evening. Well, we went to several different places in Paris, and we had about a 2-hour window that we could do whatever we want with, shop or get lunch or something. And so a group of us decided to sit in this outdoor cafe on the Champs-Élysées and beautiful space, and have lunch, because we didn't really want to shop, and we had wandered around a while. But the meal took so long to get there, and we didn't realize at first that he was kind of following our cues. There were a couple of people had ordered hors d'oeuvres, and a couple of people had wine, and different things, and we thought, here they come and take your hors d'oeuvres and maybe bring it to the table, and then almost right away they're here for your order, and there's kind of a time delimited, and that's really not the approach in Paris. They just wanted us to enjoy the time. We were in conversation with one another. People are sipping their wine and eating the hors d'oeuvres, and they didn't even think about bringing out the main meals until it looked like we were ready for that. So this time just went on, and we started becoming very aware that we were going to have to catch a bus down the road here pretty quickly. And so one of the people went and said something to the maitre d', and he looked kind of, worried about this and tried to hurry up the food, and they did get it to us in time. But I thought, that whole experience was not so much about ingesting food to give us the fuel to go do what we're going to do. The purpose was to enjoy each other's company and to savor what was right there in front of us and to take all the time we needed and relax and enjoy and be at rest. And I found that present in a number of places in Paris, that people bringing picnics and spending whole evenings on the riverbank and just in conversation or reading a book or enjoying their time. They place such a premium on that. It's not this pushy, productive culture that we experience here that I think kind of spirals us up into anxiety. Like there's more we got to do. There's more we got to fit in. I can eat my lunch and do this thing and make a plan and, drive to the store all at the same time. That's not what they're going to do in Paris. They're going to do one thing and focus on that and relax and enjoy and be present. In Switzerland, oh my gosh, a lot of people found Paris kind of overwhelming. The traffic, there was a lot of traffic everywhere we went. They were ready after London and then Paris. They were ready for a break. We certainly got that in Switzerland. And oh my goodness, nothing can prepare you for being present in the Swiss Alps. To see the size of those mountains. I kept trying to take pictures of them with my phone, made them all look so small. There's just nothing like being there and witnessing it and smelling the air. Oh my goodness. And it's like, I don't know if it's freshly mown hay or what it was in the air. It was just remarkable. Our first night in Switzerland, and they kept telling us, wait, just wait. When you get to Switzerland, it'll be like the start of a new trip. And it really was. God was just present in every vista. I don't know how someone could not believe in God standing in Switzerland with the mountains and the beauty and the people and the flowers and the freshness and just the vitality of everything. I also learned that the men in Switzerland will wink at you. And it's a little disarming, but they don't mean it in any kind of derogatory way or anything. It's just part of their conversation. The first couple of times that happened to me, I'm like, do you realize I could be your grandma? No. But the first night we went to a Swiss folklore dinner that they put on for us. It was just wonderful. And they had two gentlemen and a woman. She was playing the bass. Then they were both playing. They're not accordions. They're called something else there. But the two gentlemen were playing the accordions and yodeling. And it was really remarkable. And then 3 gentlemen came in with those big Alp horns. Have you seen those? And played those for us. And just amazing. But we spent only about 2.5 days in Switzerland. We did go up to the top of Mount Pilatus and just incredible, mind-blowing views. But the sense of the beauty that lifts your soul, it's like you just don't have a choice. Being in that environment, everything is uplifted. And I feel like it's reflected in the lives of the people, very open-hearted and kind, and they just seem so healthy. They must be healthy. Oh, lots of walking up and down the mountains, but really very happy, cohesive communities. Germany was an interesting change too. We stayed in a small town called Ettal, Ettal, and then we performed in a place called Oberammergau. That's it, Oberammergau. I'm never sure where to put the emphasis on the syllables. And just beautiful flowers, mountains in the background. Germany, Switzerland, and then Germany, and then Austria, and Prague even, the mountains never left us. They never left us. That first experience of Switzerland was like, oh my goodness, it just indescribable. But the mountains in Germany and Austria and Prague were all beautiful as well. And in Germany, right down, and in those places we stayed in smaller towns, and so our groups were assigned to different hotels, so smaller groups from that point on. But Germany, we went walking in the woods in the mountains not far from the hotel, and they're beautiful, and you're kind of following along the side of a mountain, so the path just seemed like it went up forever. But about 100 yards into the forest from this one path, we start to see the Stations of the Cross. So these big, beautiful, I don't know what you would actually call them, but it's engraved into the stone. And as we went along, and I'm not sure how far apart they were, but we saw several of these Stations of the Cross. And I was so fascinated with that. So the beauty of Germany and the loveliness of the mountain, and you go into the woods and you find Christ. And how much of a metaphor that seemed to me for much of my experience in Germany. It's like, it's beautiful on the surface. There's a lot to do on the surface, but as you go deeper, you find the spiritual heart that's at the center of it all. So I love that these Stations of the Christ weren't advertised. There's not any kind of big show about it, but here you find it in this beautiful, quiet, living side of the mountain. I found the same thing. We stopped one day in Munich, and as we pulled up, with our buses, very kind of modern looking, but old modern, like a lot of concrete, and not like in some of the towns that we went through, lots of trees and things all around as you're driving through. You see this. Munich didn't seem to be that. It seemed more of a functional kind of, it didn't feel real inspiring to me as we drove in and they unloaded the bus. But our guides knew where we were going, and we followed them in more toward the heart of the city. And things came to life. There were parks and there were trees, and it was beautiful, and there were music and there were restaurants. And we went to the Hofbrauhaus, which is like the Munich beer garden, and they were, live music, guys in lederhosen and the whole thing playing, band music. It was really awesome. And all these tables, who knows how big that place was, but people enjoying themselves and laughing and singing along with the music, and so much collective joy. And that fit that idea of, on the surface, it looks like one thing, but as you go deeper, here's this life, here's this love and connection and joy and beauty. Here's the spirit of things in Germany. As you go deeper, you find it. And of course, I did mention Dachau. That's going to be a lot to unpack, and I'm sure I'll cover more of that in another time. But Dachau, surprisingly, heartbreaking, hard to see, hard to get your mind around such horrible things that were happening and were done. And this particular concentration camp made for 6,000 people. By the time, at the end of the war, there were between 30 and 40,000 people there. And it was only made for 6,000 people. You can't imagine. They've done a very good job of presenting it and presenting the stories in a way that people can grasp. One thing along this line of finding faith in unexpected places, Dachau was the place where the preachers, the priests, those advocating for love and connection and freedom and inclusion, and those, I would be one, those were kept there at Dachau. 3,000 priests, nuns, pastors, evangelists, anyone who's speaking a word of truth to the regime that wouldn't have it, were kept at Dachau. But there are some beautiful memorials from all kinds of different faith traditions that are present now in the camp, and that they're kept up by various groups, and it's very honoring and peaceful. And the way that one of our guides had us approach Dachau was to go to these religious sites first. And I found that very hopeful, and it did kind of minister to our hearts. It was a very difficult and hard place to see, but an important place to see, and lessons that really need to be learned and integrated and understood, because that didn't just happen out of nowhere. You know, that was layered on, and it's important for each of us to be vigilant about ideas of love and goodness and inclusion and respect and care for one another. So in Austria, you know, they love their Mozart. This is Salzburg. Mozart is everywhere. And you hear God in music everywhere. And it's such an honoring culture. They have a real gift for embracing the tradition, but also being open to change. And you know, these beautiful, you did a walking tour of Salzburg, and on the actual buildings, they'll have up at the top, right under the eaves there, it'll say the date that the building was erected, 1632, and then it'll have the last date that it was renovated, 1967. So you'll see this kind of living history on these buildings, and I thought that's a beautiful way to do it. It both honors the past and is open to an embracing of the future. So we had wonderful, we went to the church where Mozart, many of his arias were performed, and he actually attended in Salzburg, saw an organ concert there. That church has actually 4 different organs, and they're, way up in this beautiful sanctuary, but they would play, the organ that they would play would depend on the acoustics of the song, because they each had different acoustics in these 4 positions in the church. I thought, these are people who know their music. They love their music. So, and then we went to the coffee shop where Mozart went all the time, apparently, and rode and gathered with friends and things. So that was fun. In Prague, I felt like Prague did all of it well. I mean, you can eat well in Prague. You hear beautiful music in Prague. You have beautiful vistas to look at. People relaxed on the riverbank. They have a great public transit system. You can just hop on and off the train and go anywhere you want to go. They're just running continually right through the center of town, which means you got to watch and get out of the way, because they will not stop for you. But there's easy access to everything. There's great respect in their culture for one another. And I saw so many young guys like jump up and let an older person have their seat on these trains. I mean, it was just like a natural thing, and nobody even thought about it. Somebody older gets on, and one of the young guys gets up and motions, and they sit down. And it just happens continually throughout their culture. So, big picture, London felt like God was present collectively in a live and let live culture. In Paris, I found God in their appreciation of time and their sense of involvement with family and friends. That was so important. In Switzerland, it's like just God was everywhere, all over everything, the freshness and the beauty and the majesty. In Germany, God was in quieter places, and they had to look a little closer, go a little deeper to find that sense of spirit and life within. And then in Prague, or in Austria, of course, music and that connecting of history and modernity. It was like both all together. And then Prague was just kind of the crown of the whole thing. I didn't expect to enjoy Prague as much as I did. It was a bit of an adjustment. It was the first language that was dramatic dramatically different. And in most of the places where we were, people either spoke English or you could make yourself understood. I never found the language to be a problem. But I think by the time I got to Prague, I was a little tired and like, oh, here we are, another new city, another thing to figure out. But after a couple of days there, it was just, you know which train to take, you know where you're going, you understand the city square, you can navigate. And it's quite amazing how quickly that can happen. So throughout it all, this sense of blessing and ease, but the things that I didn't expect to experience were the wonderful kindnesses from people and the sense of being at home everywhere we went, and a conviction that this was all gift. It was just all love and gift and goodness, and what God plans to do with it in me, I don't know yet, but it sure has been an incredible blessing and not something I ever would have thought I would do on my own, or that would be something that I would even want or be able to do. But God did it. So I am grateful. And in closing, I went a little long, but not 10 hours long. 3 verses from the Song of the Open Road by Walt Whitman. It's very long, so this is just a little snippet. Afoot and lighthearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me, the long brown path before me leading wherever I choose. Henceforth, I ask not good fortune, I am myself good fortune. Henceforth I whimper no more, postpone no more, need nothing, done with indoor complaints, libraries, querulous criticisms, strong and content, I travel the open road. I think heroic deeds were all conceived in the open air, and all free poems also. I think I could stop here myself and do miracles. I think whatever I shall meet on the road I shall like, and whoever beholds me shall like me. I think whoever I see must be happy. Thank you, friends. Good to be back.
Sounds like Catherine had a very meaningful trip, and we are so glad she was able to do that. Would you please get a hymnal and turn to page 14, and we're going to sing the first 3 verses of Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, and then remain standing and join us in singing our closing benediction hymn, Let There Be Peace on Earth.